Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to change gears and play with some AI APIs, but not from OpenAI. We'll actually be using a new platform called replicate.com. We're going to take a look at what the Replicate platform has to offer. It's supposed to be really developer friendly. There's a lot of open source models on there. There's ways to train your own models as well and keep them private. So we're going to take a look what it does, and then we're going to go ahead and test out building a small microservice that calls one of these LLM models hosted in their SaaS environment. So that's it. Sound cool? Well, it is. So let's get to it. Replicate. So what is it and how did I find it? So I was reading around TechCrunch some time ago when I ran across Replicate, and let me blow this up. It's so small. Here we go. And then I thought the title was really enticing. Replicate wants to take the pain out of running and hosting machine learning models. And there are a number of companies that do this today. The notorious one is OpenAI. There's others out there. There's Hugging, we've got Hugging Face, which I've seen. There's OctoML. I don't think I've seen this one. And there's a few others. And then, all of the cloud providers are also starting to ramp up as well. So I was like, well, Replicate, what is the enticement here? And the enticement is that they are supposed to have a really good developer experience. It's supposed to be really easy to use. And they're not just making models available. There's publicly available models, and then there's a concept of private models where you grab a model, you train it, you put it in your private space. It's just there for you to use, but you still have it exposed to you over an API, right? Which is the bottleneck of you need to have those GPUs to run a model. You need to host it somewhere and spin it up as you need, and then it needs to be easily accessible, which does sound, truth be told, pretty enticing. And so I wanted to get started. And so I created an account, and under Explore. The other thing is they have a lot of publicly available models available to you already. So there's stuff for, temporarily consistent human image animation using a stable diffusion model. Okay, cool. Image models. I used actually what we're going to be testing with is, I wanted to keep it really simple and I didn't want to spend a lot of money either. So I'm just going to use this Llama model for seeing if I could call the API to make a chat experience. Yeah, that's it. But there's all sorts of models in here. There's collections of them, which is really cool. And then you can take these models and theoretically you can make it private and then add your own data to it and then train them to, be a little bit more granular. So I feel like there's a lot of flexibility, but there's a lot of models here. How does it get to making the developer experience easier? And that's what I wanted to understand. So I went ahead and made an account. I'm going to go ahead and sign back in so you guys can see that now. And first of all, let's go to billing. What I really liked about billing was how simple it was. Basically how simple it was and how transparent it is. The other thing that I really love is the spend limit. When we're futzing around in the ecosystem of other SaaS platforms, it's really nerve-wracking to have a massive credit card bill that you're unaware of. And so I love that there's a spending limit, and I set it super low. I said it's $10. If I blow $10, cut me off. And I think that's great. So that's just a great way for people to onboard themselves comfortably and figure out what's going on. Tokens, it's really easy to manage my tokens. And then when it comes to create model, dashboard, if you go to your dashboard, what the other thing was nice was I could see, so I was testing this out 5 days ago. You can see how you can just kind of like track every time you hit what they call a prediction or hit the model and know what you've been running recently and and your invoice associated to it. So I think that is thus far, in terms of a billing perspective, has been a great experience. But there's more. I think there's more to it. So if we click on one of these models, when you go to the exploration phase, you can, they just give you all sorts of tooling, developer tooling available to you for going ahead and testing out the model. Kind of like if you just have like, if you are an active developer, like having a developer portal right here to demo these models and then in turn translate to making those API calls, right? So that is often a bottleneck. So demo, I picked the Meta Llama 2 chat model, just to keep it simple because I don't want to spend a lot of money. And a poem about llamas. Maybe I can spell llamas correctly. So that's what the prompt. So that's the prompt. You're helpful, and then system prompt, things that should always be there. You're helpful, respectful. Token. So how big should the response be? Adjustment of randomness. There's a lot of things to adjust, and it makes it pretty clear what they're used for. So if I run this, it's going to take a few seconds. There it is. Sure, here. You're so elegant and fine with their soft woolly coats and their gentle shine. God, that's funny. Maybe this is a really long poem. The fur is so soft in shades of white and brown. Okay, yeah, it's pretty weird. I mean, but it is actually a good poem, so that's funny. And then you can see the JSON output, also extremely lovely. So I've now ran it manually here, but then how do I do it in a different language? So this is where they basically step you through step by step how to replicate what you've just done in the demo in this form. Grab your token, import replicate. Here's how you run the output, and then they have a getting started guide with Node.js. And they do this for a couple of other languages. So I thought this was pretty cool. It makes it really easy. Raw HTTP cog. I haven't used cog yet. Makes it really easy to get started. And so that's what I wanted to do. Any questions? I don't think so. README. Yeah, it tells you all about it, which is really nice to know. Training. Here you go. And then they lead you to how to train your own model. And also it tells you the costs of training these things. That's the other thing that's very clear, is the costs for running a model are very clear. Let's grab another one. The model costs approximately, I love this. I love knowing how much a thing costs. The model costs approximately 0.0089 cents to run on replicate, but very depending on the input size, right? So it depends on the amount of time you've got that model running as well. If you've got a large input, it's going to cost more. If you've got a smaller input, it's going to cost less. So this is replicate, and it seems like a pretty cool platform. So in the next section, we're going to go ahead and now go back to so if I go back to my dashboard, you can see that this is the model. This is the iteration I just ran. Tells you how long it ran, tells you if it was successful. I did have some cancellations in here. Yeah, first one I canceled because I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, what if it cost too much? I'm like, it shouldn't matter because I've got the billing on there. And so, yeah, this is pretty cool. And so I'm going to go back to this. Yeah, I'm going to go back to this. So in the next section, what we're going to be doing, let's go to Excalibur. What we're going to be doing is actually building a Node.js application. It's actually going to be in TypeScript, and we're going to be using actually a framework called Nest to go ahead and build out a pseudo production ready small microservice in TypeScript. So it's going to be wow, that's a funny color, huh? Let's make that blank. Yeah, we're going to have the structure is going to be a type NestJS TypeScript based microservice. Whoa. I wonder if I could boop. Yeah, that's better. I hope this is big enough. I'm gonna blow it up for you guys. I'm gonna blow it up over here. Yeah, no, this is super tiny. I'm sorry. And what's going to happen inside this package is it's going to make this blue, make it solid. I know I can't read the. Going to expose one API called, and we'll just make it simple. It's going to be called get prompt, I think, maybe, possibly. Don't hold me to it, but we're going to have one API endpoint exposed to the world that people can hit, or it'll just be running locally, but theoretically. And we're going to have a red. This is going to be the API user, which is going to be me, because it's going to be running local. And this prompt is going to call a module. Make this yellow because we're going fast. It's going to make a replicate module, and inside this module, what are we going to do? We are going to pass the API user input into the, and passing the call the I'm gonna make this bigger so that everyone can kind of read what's going on. Who cares how big it is? Yeah. So we're gonna have a function that's going to the input that we're gonna accept from the client is a prompt. So prompt meaning make anything within reason. Make a poem about pandas, right? I.e., make a poem about pandas. Why not? It sounds like fun. Okay, I gotta stop adjusting this and get to the point. And so this function is gonna call that guy. And then where we're gonna go is we are going to, when this is triggered, we are going to end up calling the API endpoint up and replicate. I'm gonna make replicate red because they seem like a very red natured. So here we'll be calling. This is up replicate SaaS. I've got my token and I'm gonna be calling the LLM model I've got in there. The public LLM model. I'm gonna set it so it calls the public meta LLM model. I'll keep this real big so everyone can see. Yeah, and then it's going to return all of this to the front. So just to squash this all together a bit. That is a strategy. So we're going to build a small microservice that's going to allow the user to call a get prompt endpoint. It's going to accept a prompt input, and that input is going to be passed over to a replicate module. That replicate module is going to know, it's going to have everything necessary to make the call out to the replicate SaaS platform, and it's going to specify what model to use and pass that input from the user in, call the model, and then return it all the way back to the front. Which I thought was a very good intro, hello world, to using replicate. And just to keep what all the tools we're going to be using is we're going to be using TypeScript, we're going to be using NestJS, and we're going to be using Replicate. I'm going to put replicate.com because it's sometimes difficult to navigate to Nest to find it on the internet unless you put in that .com. Sound like a plan? Yes. Cool. Okay, let's get to it. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the coding portion of this project, and we're going to be using NestJS and TypeScript. The reason being, a couple of reasons. If you look at all of the SDKs available, we do have Node.js, so we do have a JavaScript library that we can install via npm and yarn. And then second is that I've been playing around a lot with this NestJS framework, and I thought it'd just be fun to continue using it. So enables developers to code in pure JavaScript, combine the elements of object-oriented programming, functional programming, and functional reactive. If you're unfamiliar with it, it lets you do things like dependency injection and modular code development, imports, exports, things like that. It's been nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Where's the documentation? Let's go to the document. Oh yeah, scroll down. To get started, first you got to install the NestJS CLI, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And then we're going to create a new project. So I'm just going to bring up the bring up my terminal, see what's in here, and I'm just going to write nest new chatbot backend. I'm going to call the project chatbot backend, and I'm actually going to use yarn. So all of this code we have up, I'm going to have up for you in, I'll have the link for you in GitHub to the completed project. Right, okay, and then what's next? Next, I already wrote down, because of course I've already done this. Right, so if we go ahead and look at the space already, change it to chatbot backend. We can see there's a lot of files that have been started for us. So let's go ahead and bring this up in VS Code. Okay, so this is what a scaffold of a project looks like. We've got some TypeScript files. We've actually got some linting files, and inside source we have a controller, a module to define our import exports, a really basic service that's being injected, and a main that is going to kind of bootstrap and start this microservice for us. So what do we want to do? Is the first thing we actually need to do is we actually need to install the replicate package. So I'm actually going to do yarn add new terminal. So with that, if we go into package.js now, package.json, we look into our dependencies, you can see we've got replicators in there. So that's good. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other thing that I learned from a bug was that inside our TypeScript config, we actually add an additional, to do this in TypeScript, we have to add an additional attribute. We need to include this ES module interoperability. I'm going to post the link. What happened was, and we'll trigger this on and off to see, but this is the GitHub issue that I found on the exact same issue. Looks like you're running into an issue with ES modules. If you're using TypeScript, try adding this. So I'm going to post a link to that as well. And we'll be able to trigger that. Okay, so that's the basic setup that I've got going. Now we've got to go ahead and go to replicate and follow the instructions. So export your token. And if you are inside the ecosystem, it's will also help you generate a new token. Should we generate a new token? No, we'll just export this token because I'm just going to go ahead and blow it away. Export that token. Great. It should be a secret. It's not a secret. And then it steps through a couple of things, just like how to set up a really basic client and then how to call them. So step 2, import and set up the clients because we need to make a API call over to replicate. So this is the client. And then how to actually call that model that we specifically want. So if you look at replicate run, you can see that the first input is the model. And then the next the next input object gives you all the attributes that you want. So right here, this is going to be the variable that we allow users to change, that make the API. That's the prompt that we're going to allow our API users to make, and everything else will be kind of hard-coded or static. And then we'll return that. So let's get to it. The first thing I did, so the next thing I did was, now that we've got this set up, is we need to go ahead and make a new source. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and make a new inside source. We're going to make a new module called replicate. It's going to need the, kept it simple, index, replicate, service, TypeScript, replicate, dot, TypeScript. And then inside here, the service, so on application bootstrap, let's go ahead and import. This is going to let you hit the lifecycle hook. Yeah, we're going to need injectable. So we want this service to be injected, and so we're going to get the injectable annotation, and we're going to have it's going to hit the lifecycle hook of, so when the microservice, the whole microservice is bootstrapped, inside on application bootstrap method, it will execute some stuff. What are we going to do in on application bootstrap? Well, before we get there, let's go ahead and figure out what's our constructor going to be. Yeah, so we need a replicate client of type replicate, We can see it imported it. Why are you mad? Incorrectly. Yeah, okay, we'll deal with that. We need a model. I just kind of hard coded the model, and let me copy paste this over because it's really long. Because it's not something we're supposed to be changing, so I just kind of like hard coded it as a constant in the class. And then what else do we need? Yeah, then let's worry about the, whoa, I don't know what my Copilot's doing. Not co-piloting. Let's build out the constructor. One thing that was different about TypeScript construction is you could just do the only thing I really want here is a logger. And we're gonna make that, God. You know what? Copilot, you're not helping me today. Private read only logger of type logger service, logger equals new logger. Replicate service name. Yes, and we gotta import both of these. Optional. Boop, and then what else we need to import? Logger, which is also a NestJS comment. So I'm just gonna. Yeah, so if you guys are familiar with JavaScript, you kind of tell like it feels really Java-y, which is kind of nice, which is actually pretty nice. And then, so this is weird, right? We've defined and instantiated this object in the attributes of a constructor without having to actually go into the constructor method to do it. That was always really difficult for me. It's been difficult for me to adapt to that. And then it's complaining about on application bootstrap, so let's go ahead and implement that. we are going to do, what did I say we wanted to do in here? Right, this is where I wanted to execute the logic for creating the client. I gotta tell that, I gotta turn my Copilot off. So how did I do this? I tried to keep it really simple. The first is we need to deal with the token that we just exported right here, but we need to bring this in. This is a really simple project, so I basically am gonna just look in the system variables where this process is running, and it's gonna be running locally right here for the moment, and if it's not there, I'm just gonna throw an error. So import it, check that it's defined. If it's not defined, throw an error, kill the process, or kill the application basically. Now we need to instantiate the client. I went ahead and I put this in a try catch. Catch E. How do we do this? So if we look at the replicate code, it creates a new replicate object. It's called replicate, but I'm calling it replicate client. So we're gonna do the same thing here, except in TypeScripty land. TypeScripty land, I'm gonna do. So take this auth token, instantiate a new replicate client, and if it's not there, let's go ahead and catch it and throw an error, throw E. Actually, just throw a new error, because we also can't do anything in that case if it's not there. If it succeeded, we'll go ahead and log it. Is there anything else we need to do on application bootstrap? I think that's it. So on application bootstrap is going to pull in the token and initialize our replicate client. Next, we need to go ahead and create a service to call the model. I think we'll just call it get prompt. And we're going to accept a prompt that's a type string. And what are we going to return is probably a prompt. We're going to return a promise of type string. We're not using type like a lot of types at the moment. We're just keeping it pretty straightforward. It's whining because I didn't do that. So let me copy this in. This is our input. Let's talk about it. So basically all the attributes that I used up in replicate are hard-coded except for prompt right here. I've come from Java land. I know you don't have to do prompt, prompt, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And then I kept the system prompts. I kind of like it. Especially the baseline they give you is pretty nice. You'll always be helpful and safe. And also, we're not going to be unethical, rude, or all of these things. So I like the system prompts. I thought that was really, and it was nice that they kind of give you an example, because when we're all new to this place, we have no idea what we're trying to do or how it works, until you get familiar with it. So we need to save an output. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that's the input that we're going to pass the model. Now we're going to try to get, we're going to work on the output. So now we're going to do back in a try catch. How did I do this? Let me build out my try catch. Catch E. We'll throw something. Yeah, there we go. What do we want to catch? We're going to have, do we want to throw the error? Yeah, we'll just throw. We'll log it. Throw it. Assuming nothing is wrong, let's go ahead and we're gonna parse the output is equal to, it's a type string. I know it's unnecessary, but it helps me while I'm learning. And I think we need to join these by that output and then return response. Again, do we need to so many lines? No, we're gonna do it. And then, okay, so this is our replicate service. It's got one public method that can be called to prompt the chatbot, the model, the Llama model for a response, and then return that response. So what we just worked on looking at Excalidraw is we wrote this piece right here to call this piece. And now let's go ahead and get over to, we got to expose this. We're going to do this in the controller. Before we can do that, we need to go into the module index. Oh, I did this all in the index. This needs to go in the service. Yes, and then in the index, we're going to export everything. Replicate. No, don't. Still learning. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so this is our replicate service. Woo! Almost put in the wrong spot. And then the other thing is we're dealing with modules. I'll write it from scratch so we can do it together. Module, we've got a module has imports, imports, providers, and exports. And we are going to have a providers of replicate service. And we need to export this, meaning that there's going to be other modules, our app controller, then you're going to need access to this. So that's going to be our export. And then we're going to export this class, and we're going to call it replicate module, and then we need to bring in we need to import some annotations. Module. Anything else need to be? Exports. We need to import replicate service. Yes, import replicate service from replicate.service. Yes. Anything else? That is our module. So that, and again, this is so that the app controller. This is actually send. I guess I don't need an arrow. I need words. The app controller needs to be able to call this module. We called it replicate module, which has a exported service called replicate service. And it's got the get prompt string call replicate client run. And so app controller needs access to replicate service to make this call. Okay, so now we're going to go into app controller. What are we doing in app controller? Let's go look at app controller. App controller. Okay, so app controller's got this like hello world. We're just going to go ahead and leave it because it's nice. And we're going to make a new post request at endpoint replicate, and then async. It's gonna be async get replicate prompt, and we're gonna take a body of a request of type prompt. I don't think we have a prompt, so we gotta go fix that. Does this guy have a logger? He needs a logger. Let's open this. Let's open this down. optional private read only logger equals new logger of type app controller.name. We gotta import these logger and this comma separated list and oh no, optionals there. We need to import post. We need to import body. And then we need to work on prompt. So for the prompt, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back actually and replicate. I'm gonna make them TO. I'm gonna call this replicate T. So that's our object, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go ahead and import it. But this is wrong. That is correct. So now it knows where prompt is. I'm just going to go ahead and log the... Just so we're not crazy, we're going to go ahead and log the request. Log-a-gugger. It's funny. All right, now we need to also import our replicate service. Yes, private read only. Because it's injectable, we're comma. Because it's injectable, we're just gonna leave it as that. And then what we're gonna do here is call yeah. Okay. So we have a post request replicate that accepts a body that's got it's a type prompt, and then we're actually just going to parse the request, the prompt attribute out of it, make a call to the replicate service, wait for the response, and return it. I'm not doing any try catching, we're just keeping it really simple. Anything else? Let's start dev. We'll start this. So we're going to do yarn start dev. So yarn start dev. Boop. It's in watch mode. Gives you hot restarts. You can see we've got 2 endpoints starting, and the app looks like the application has started and the controller has started. Okay, we're having a quick bug. I finally got Insomnia running, and this is what we have got. Post 500. But what's going on? If we look at the log, we can see that the I was able to log the body coming in, so it's not that. And then I realized we've got something that's undefined, and then we didn't go into, just kind of like we have to export stuff out of a module, exported the service. We need to go into the app controller. We actually need to import it so that it knows it's injectable. So if we go into app module, and if we import replicate service module, it's still not going to work because we're going to fix these imports. It's actually not importing the module, we're importing the service. There you go. That's right. It's called replicate module. What did I call it? Replicate module. Okay, now it's happy. So now if we go, still 500. The only thing I've done is said that it's not optional. Of type replicate. Oh yeah, it doesn't have a type here. Why didn't you throw? Let's fix that. Is that? Get replicate prompt. What did I call this method? Service. Get prompt. Yeah, this doesn't exist now. Okay. Now it failed to run the client. Aha! It's thinking now. It didn't like that model. Okay. Ah. Let's bump it up to... What did I do in... Here I did 500. Okay, I'll bump it up to 100. Bump it up to 100. Yeah, 100. Save. Hot restart. Here we go. Aha. Preview. Source. That's nicer. Yes, and so here we go. About unicorns. Where magic grows, a creature pure with horn aglow. The unicorn prances, graceful sight, with a mane of rainbow shining bright. Its hooves verily touch the ground as it floats along without a sound. Right. Well, one thing is it didn't kind of like finish. It's like halfway through the poem. Interesting. So it's not the best. Okay, cool. Well, that's it. So, oh yeah, and let's do one thing. Let's swap this to false and see the error messages. It's not at runtime. So now... Huh, it didn't seem to work. I saw this one time. I just had to... Yeah. There it goes. Comes up immediately. Type error, replicate one default is not a constructor. And then an error is found that it was not able to initialize. So now... Yeah, I bet this TypeScript config is not a part of the hot restart. So I'm going to flip the Boolean back to true. Restart's fine. Okay, so that's what we did. And I thought it was kind of fun doing it in TypeScript. I'm not a SME. But, gotta learn. So, what did we do? Prompt. The prompt was... I wonder if I could do haikus. What do you think? Give me a poem about unicorns. We exposed it through the app controller. And the app controller called a replicate service. And replicate service had a method called getPrompt. And we're using the NestJS framework. So we had a module. We exported the replicate service. We imported everything into the app controller so that it would instantiate properly. And then we were able to call up to the model that sits in Replicate's SaaS platform. So that was kind of fun. I'm going to post everything up in Git for you guys, so check out the links below. And I'm also going to link that issue with the TypeScript interoperability because I thought that was interesting, and that issue just solved it immediately. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to see anything else, let me know. I'll see you all later.